Hey, good afternoon, folks. Thanks everyone for joining today. We are going hot and live right now at 2:05 Eastern. We've got a great critical mass with over 60 participants in today's webinar. This is Craig Berstatti coming to you from Washington, D.C. and the EDA's Office of Innovation and Entrepreneurship. I'm going to give a quick test. If a few of you could say, check, we can hear your audio. Just want to make sure that everyone is getting us loud and clear that has dialed in to the audio, please. If you can drop that into the chat box, just a check loud and clear, that'd be great. Awesome. Thank you, Sam. Thank you, Mary. Thanks so much. Let's get rolling. First and foremost, a couple of questions already on this webinar. We are, in fact, recording, and this will be available and posted live probably in about 24 hours or so. I just introduced myself, and I'm here with my colleague, Emily Miller, from the Office of Innovation and Entrepreneurship. I don't like to spend too much time on intros, so maybe just a fun fact from me and maybe one from Emily. I'll tell you, I'm really pleased and humbled to say that I just hit my 16th year of public service last month. So really passionate about what we're doing here at EDA. It's been a privilege for me to serve in this role for just over 5 years now, and where I came on board in 2014. Helping our communities in a variety of ways, supporting innovation and entrepreneurship as a tool for economic development. So Emily?
Thanks, Craig, and good afternoon, everybody. Thank you for joining us. My name is Emily Miller. I'm a policy advisor here in the Office of Innovation and Entrepreneurship. Been here for just about a year now, and really excited about this R2 Network Challenge and all the information we're about to share with you.
Awesome. So with that, let's get down to business. The R2 Challenge, why everyone is here, is an exciting, first of its kind, cross-bureau effort between EDA, FirstNet, and NIST Public Safety Communications Research Team. One of the many charges that we have here at EDA's Office of Innovation and Entrepreneurship is to serve as a collaborator and a coordinator across federal entities to really improve the way we are supporting our innovators and entrepreneurs across the states. Those of you who know EDA or are familiar with us from the get-go here, you might know us for the Regional Innovation Strategies Grant Program. Maybe you're familiar with us from our Research and National Technical Assistance Program, or some of our bricks and mortars, the stuff we're doing in the field through Public Works or Economic Development and Assistance. There's a lot of ways that we work to support economic development through our traditional grant-making tools, and just really pleased to say that this is the first time that OIE at EDA is going down the path to meet our congressional statutory goal to serve as a collaborator and a convener here. And I mentioned these team members already, and we'll get a quick chance to hear from them, but I'll emphasize one point here where EDA is really great at bringing people together on the ground. Our grants are not very large. We're typically investing maybe on average between $500,000 to $1.5 million, but those grants serve as a convening tool to bring experts, to bring organizations and community assets to the table to execute big picture, impactful programs or projects. Projects that will change the direction, the trajectory of a community's economy, and perhaps a regional economy. And I look at this program the same way. Here we are serving as a convener to bring some really, truly amazing federal assets together so we can change the status quo in these technology sectors for our first responders and our communities that are being hit more and more by disasters. So our interest in this, though, at the end of the day, this particular initiative is to leverage technologies to start businesses that are going to create the jobs of the future, really driving economic development, economic diversity. That is what we do here at EDA in our interest. But I think to provide a little bit more color on this effort here, it'd be great to hear from FirstNet. And with us today is Carlin Younger. Carlin, you want to talk a little bit about FirstNet and why you decided to do this crazy collaboration with us?
Absolutely. Thanks so much, Craig. Hi, everyone. As Craig said, my name is Carlin Younger, and I represent the First Responder Network Authority, which is an independent entity here at the Department of Commerce. Our mission, for those of you who have never heard of us before, is to build, operate, and maintain the nation's first public safety broadband network. And in order to do that, back in 2017, after a competitive RFP, we formed a public-private partnership with AT&T to build the network and provide service to our first responders. And since beginning to deploy that network over 2 years ago, we've reached most recently about 9,800 agencies have subscribed, we're almost up to 1 million connections. So that's ticking along nicely, and we're very pleased with that. But going forward, our strategic vision includes fostering a differentiated ecosystem for our first responders so that they can really leverage the power of LTE broadband to transform their operations and help save lives. In order to achieve that, we fully recognize that this is going to take an entirely dedicated ecosystem, one that may not really exist today, to bring that attention to first responders, their needs, emergency managers, and their communities to respond to these disasters as they go forward. So that's what we really see as exciting about the Accelerate R2 Network Challenge. We're very pleased to be a part of it. And back over to you, Craig.
Well, I guess 2 is a party, but 3 is a festival. Let's call this an innovation festival. And our other co-conspirator out in Colorado today with NIST Public Safety Communications Research Lab is Jeb Benson. Jeb, could you give us a quick rundown on NIST's interest here?
Sure. Thanks, Craig. Can you hear me okay?
Loud and clear, sir.
Great. Yeah, so hey, everybody. My name is Jeb Benson. I work in the NIST Public Safety Communications Research Division, or as we're better known out there, PSCR. So PSCR is in the middle of an aggressive $300 million R&D program focused on rapidly accelerating key technologies to transform first responder communications and operations. We have developed 6 portfolios to address these technologies, which were identified through extensive stakeholder engagement and market research. These 6 portfolio areas are mission-critical voice, location-based services, advanced user interfaces, public safety analytics, security, and resilient systems. And I encourage all of you to visit our website, pscr.gov, to learn more about those areas. So it's really hard for us to overstate the importance our external partners in industry, academia, and the startup community have in helping us achieve our goals. So we have invested a significant percentage of our time, energy, and funding into building an extensive innovation ecosystem focused on public safety R&D. But we also recognize that in order to nurture and expand this uniquely talented and diverse community, and particularly to decrease the time for their technologies to transition from lab to market, we need to put a support system in place. And so that's why we're so excited to partner with EDA and FRNA to create the Accelerate R2 network. Personally, on a personal note, I run one of these portfolios, the LBS portfolio, and I cannot tell you how many times I've thought, I really wish we had R2 in place. So thank you all for your interest in this ambitious effort, and I wish you the best of luck. Back to you, Craig.
Amazing. Thanks, Jeb. This is really about collaboration, both internal at government to make this happen, and I hope what you take home today is also about collaboration outside. I mean, we're gonna rely on stakeholders, on the attendees on this call, to develop some exciting nationwide efforts to support our desired outcomes here. And let's get into exactly what that looks like. And Emily, I think, is going to run down some details here and dive into what this program is all about and what we're looking for. Just a quick reminder, feel free to plug your questions as they come along. We may not address them in real time, but we will certainly save time at the end to go through questions in an orderly way. Thanks, folks. Emily.
Awesome. Thank you, Craig. So really excited to launch this. It's a $1 million competition. You know, as I think many of you already know, disaster response and resiliency, you know, that's some of our most pressing challenges. In 2017, just for kind of a quick snapshot, FEMA estimated that 25 million Americans were impacted by the 59 major disasters that we experienced across the country that year. And that included 3 catastrophic hurricanes and historic wildfires. And the thing is that this doesn't stop after the emergency has passed. We saw serious long-term infrastructure challenges, communication issues. And so that's really, you know, why we created the Accelerate R2 Network Challenge. The goal here is to really connect stakeholders in these 2 areas, the response and resilience industries, and really bring the stakeholders together across geographies in the U.S. and really accelerate the pace that startups and corporations and other organizations can bring innovations to the market. So let's dive in and we can get into some of the specifics. So as you can see, we have kind of split out what we define as our response innovation and our resiliency innovation. You know, I think the thing to hit home here is that innovation is critical to meeting the evolving response and resilience challenges that we face. Response innovation can take the form of communications, technology, and the equipment that first responders use. And when we talk about resilience innovation, you know, we're really figuring out ways that how do we build, protect, and connect networks that really help our communities build readiness and resilience in the face of future disasters. So let's talk about potential applicants. So we're really looking for someone who can serve as a national convener, who can convene across regions at a hopefully national scope that can bring together both the response and resilience industries. And we're really looking to bring together network participants like, for example, startup accelerators, incubators, entrepreneurship support organizations, R&D centers, and investment firms. And those are just kind of an example of the kinds of network participants we're looking for, but by no means a limit to that, what we could consider. And, you know, I just wanted to show this. You know, Jeb spoke a little bit earlier about PSCR's investment. You know, they've made $53 million investment in the R2 R&D ecosystem already, and that's really just scratching the surface. You know, I think there are many programs and institutions operating in this space, but what we've realized is that there's no central hub for planning, for collaboration. You know, there's no consolidation point for information sharing. And so this is really what we're trying to get to with the Accelerate R2 network. And it also doesn't help that these industries are particularly tough ones for entrepreneurs to work in. You know, technology takes a while to get to market. Typically, this market is dominated by very strong incumbents. They're slow to change. We're often relying on legacy systems. And there's typically a pretty long sales and procurement cycle because of budgetary constraints that make it tough for entrepreneurs really work in this space. So the goal here is that the Accelerate R2 network will really be able to, you know, bring these stakeholders together, share resources, share best practices, and get connected. So here's kind of the quick look at, you know, some of the desired outcomes we have, and this is not an exhaustive list, but, you know, kind of from a high-level perspective, the desired outcomes that we have for the network. Obviously, we wanted to serve as kind of a national coordinator of these accelerator, incubator, entrepreneurship support organizations that are working in the R2 space. We want to develop and deepen those relationships between R2 stakeholders themselves and quite simply make connections that didn't exist before, and continue to strengthen that communication and really the kicker here is increase the commercialization of R2 technologies. The goal here is that the quicker we can get new ideas and products to market, the faster it gets into the end user's hands and into the hands of our first responders when these disasters hit.
This is, Emily, I want to jump in on this one because I think this is such a great example of some of EDA's earlier work. For those of you that are new to EDA, disaster response is a long, for a long time has been a part of our portfolio, and we've supported rebuilding local economies in many ways over the years. Down in Louisiana, for example, we supported a number of entrepreneurship efforts after Katrina, that bad, terrible hurricane in 2005. And those entrepreneurship programs kind of organically grew a bit of a disaster resiliency cluster where we're seeing a number of entrepreneurs, technologies, and businesses working to address Louisiana's coastal risk zone, where you have flood mitigation challenges, water management, flood sensing issues, and a number of entrepreneurs are tackling that in different ways. Out in California, very real time right now, we know the disasters that the fires have brought. And we also know that there are some innovative practices being deployed today in real time to address those current needs. And we could go on and on, but I think this stuff is happening organically already. We have business clusters, pockets of industries starting to develop all over the nation. What you're looking at here is just an illustration. It is not prescriptive. It is not a complete example. It is just provided to stir some thought. And when you think about the asset of activities happening in different communities right now, today, I want you to think about different strategies to connect those communities, to connect those organizations, those practice leaders, those investors, and the inventors that are making this happen already. On the top there, the prompt is growing the R2 industry. Just about a decade ago, I think that there was a number of people that might not universally understand what the clean tech sector was. I joke sometimes that to some business professionals outside of that particular sector, if they heard clean tech, they might think of the Roomba, that automated robot that jumps around and cleans your living room floor. But it is obviously not that. The clean tech sector is so much more, and it is a robust, growing industry now. And it would be very interesting to see how greater connections in this line of technology innovation could grow a true, robust, nationally recognized R2 industry. Building on our work at EDA, FirstNet's investments, and of course, that robust research portfolio that Jeb talked about on the top of the call. There's a ton of assets at play here. Let's figure out some creative ways to connect these and really professionalize this work across the nation. Emily?
Awesome. So talking about some of our funding caps and project periods, so we've got really kind of fundamentally two options presented in our Notice of Funding Opportunity, which I highly recommend everyone on this call to look up and to read in its entirety, and we'll have links at the end of the presentation. But we're offering up to a $1 million federal funds cap for the ability to create a nationwide R2 network. One thing I'd like to really reiterate here is that we do have a 1-to-1 match requirement. So essentially that means that for every federal dollar you request, you must bring the same amount of non-federal funds to the project. And so, I think that's one thing we tell prospective applicants to, really think long and hard about where that match can come from and what that looks like. And we're typically looking at a 3-year project period here. And we welcome co-applicants who might want to apply to together form the nationwide R2 network and leverage their specific industry expertise. And then there's a secondary option, which is to create potentially 2 separate networks. So come to the table with either a response network or a resiliency network. And if you would like to form a specific network for that, you can request up to $700,000 in federal funds with the same match requirement. So the 1-to-1 match requirement is still in effect here in a 3-year project period as well. So let's talk a little bit about the entities that are eligible to apply. This is pretty clearly stated in the funding opportunity, but I just wanted to touch upon this briefly. Individuals are not eligible for funding. You'll see that kind of in the bright red there, so just wanted to highlight that up front. The entities that are eligible are anything from a state to an Indian tribe. We're also welcoming cities or other political subdivisions of a state. And then kind of our usual, everything from a nonprofit organization, Institute of Higher Education. We also have public-private partnerships and pretty clear guidelines on what that looks like, as well as the rest of the list here, the science and research parks, federal labs, and economic development organizations. You can also do a consortium of that, and I'm happy to talk offline. We can get into specifics of what that might look like. But I would say, generally speaking, don't want to get too far into the weeds here, but, this is kind of the range of organizations that are typically a good fit for this grant application.
Yeah, I think one thing that's on the bottom there, it's clear this is not for individuals, but this is also not for a business. We're not looking to support some sort of individual commercialization effort in the response or resiliency space. We're trying to unlock an entire industry's potential and really need a big thinking organization to tackle that broad national challenge.
Yep, exactly. So for the process itself, we'll go through the dates here in just a second, but we have set up a phased timeline to allow for organizations to submit a letter of intent. This letter of intent, we've got the guidelines for this in the funding opportunity, but really allows us an opportunity to look at what your strategic plan is for actually building out this network. And then that will allow us the opportunity to also engage and give some hopefully constructive feedback and let you know whether moving forward to a full application submission would make sense for your organization. So that letter of intent is due by January 8th. So that's rapidly approaching, January 8th, 2020. And then the full application submission will happen shortly after that in March. And then we will do a technical and merit review internally, and a selection will be made hopefully shortly after that. So that's kind of a broad overview of the process itself. And just wanted to hit the dates on this one more time. So the letter of intent is due on January 8th. The full application shortly after in March, so on March 11th. Internally, we will conduct a technical review, and we've got very specific, it's all written out in the funding opportunity, what we're looking for eligibility and completeness. And same with the merit review. We very clearly list out our evaluation criteria in Section E of the NOFO. So again, just encourage everyone to give a visit to our website and also an in-depth look at the funding opportunity as well.
Yeah, I think the letter of intent too is, while on the surface may look like a simple, straightforward document, I think we're trying to limit this to about 3 pages or less. Mm-hmm. I just want to stress for folks not to undervalue that. That is really your one time to formally engage us. and it is our one time to formally provide, to conduct an evaluation and to provide some feedback. This is the first time that all of us have done this, all of us meaning EDA, FirstNet, and NIST. We expect a broad range of strategies here, and we really want to engage you and work with everyone to provide some meaningful feedback to get us to the most impactful solutions. So please take that seriously. We want to maximize that opportunity to collaborate with each other there.
And just a few other administrative details. We wanted to include both a link to the application package itself, which you can find on grants.gov, and that's easily searchable with the funding opportunity number listed here. And we'll also be posting this webinar and also the slides that accompany it, so you'll be able to double check all of these resources. This is just kind of a quick reference guide for those who are just now learning about the program itself.
And again, this will be available via the web in about a day or two as we get the recording uploaded as well as these slides. So far, not a ton of questions have come in, but now is the time for questions. I do see one from Mark Peterson. Mark, I'm not quite sure what you mean there, but I do believe maybe at the heart of that question is how or what type of first responders stand to benefit from this. I just like to take this opportunity to stress this is not about servicing our first responders. The priority here is unlocking technology and equipment and new businesses so those end user customers can benefit. I think if this is focused, if your strategy is focused on, is mainly focused on supporting first responders versus supporting the technology and the business growth or entrepreneurship that those first responders may benefit from, it might be a little off mark. So take a look at those desired outcomes, and I think Emily did a great job of running down example participants such as business accelerators, incubators, entrepreneurship support organizations, and such. That really might help paint a better picture for you.
We did just get a question on the matching funds, so we've got a couple different questions regarding that. So the 50% match remains the same. When we say 50% match, we're referring to you must bring 50% match to the total project cost. The shorthand way is just saying it's 1-to-1. So if you request $700,000 of federal funds, you have to have a matching requirement of $700,000 of non-federal funds. So I hope that clarifies. And for the folks at the university, we have, in this particular office, done many grants to universities who have met the 1-to-1 match requirement. And keep in mind that it doesn't necessarily have to be cash. It can also be in kind. So, whatever those in-kind services look like, that's also an option as well.
An interesting thought just came up internally here, going back to my prior comment about connecting or supporting first responders. I think one strategy, one component of a broader strategy, I should say, could be specific efforts or connections that a network could provide to end users. One very generic example could be the challenges in contracting with a variety of police or fire stations across the state. We know that to get a business into the market requires a certain level of scale. in a certain level of proof of concept, right? If this team, if a proposal were to incorporate strategies that would help entrepreneurs test, pilot, validate technologies across different first responder offices, stations, districts, what have you, that could be an interesting component and would certainly support what I was driving at earlier around helping entrepreneurs build technology-driven businesses that are going to lead to scalable conditions, sustainable businesses, and thus jobs of the future. Hope that helps clarify some thoughts.
Quick answer for the slides question. The slides will be posted on our website. If folks go to eda.gov/OIE, there will be a tab for the Accelerate R2 Network Challenge, and we will be posting both the recording of the webinar and the slides themselves up on the website.
I'll jump on some of the private sector or privately owned business questions here. I think these are fair questions. Some of our best, most impactful organizations right now are certainly privately owned businesses. But for a couple reasons, both by law and by strategy, we are driven by the eligibility criteria we communicated earlier. So by law, what does that mean? Our grant-making tools are driven by Congress, and Congress has allowed us to make grants to a certain type of organization. So no need to get into the weeds on the specifics of the grant-making tool or the funding tool, I should say, that is supporting this particular program. But I'll just say that ultimately, as a federal grant maker, those are the types of entities that we can make grants to. But it's not for lack of thought. The reason why we focus on intermediary leading organizations such as nonprofits, higher education organizations, governments, both state, local, and the like, is because those types of entities tend to serve as constructive, nonpartisan, non-biased conveners, and that's what we're looking for here. We're looking for someone who doesn't stand to benefit financially, but really wants to put the nation's readiness, the nation's jobs, and economic competitiveness first. And I think that's why this program is well suited for one of those organizations that we described earlier. And I think it'd be tough to find the right type of private business that could lead this type of truly national effort. We're looking to bring a really diverse set of teams together to move the needle here. It's a tough mission for sure.
I think we also have a question from David about, why are we not allowing private collaboration? So I think there's a little bit of a maybe misunderstanding on our part here. The R2 Network Challenge is really meant to bring together innovation ecosystems. And those innovation ecosystems typically revolve around things like the accelerators, the incubators, those intermediaries that support startups and companies. So though we're not directly supporting the startups and companies themselves, we are supporting and connecting those intermediaries like the accelerators and incubators. So those are the people that we imagine being kind of the network participants, or an accelerator in Houston and an incubator in Seattle. Those, obviously not those specific cities, but that's kind of what we're aiming for. So indirectly, it will certainly allow for private collaboration, but really through the network itself. We will be funding kind of the intermediaries who run this. Hope that makes sense. With regard to the match question, there is no specific threshold. You do not have to have a certain portion of it be cash or in kind. We just ask that people be thoughtful about where their match is coming from and how they've constructed it, but we don't have any specific guidelines on that.
I think we hit a lot of them today, and I think we'll just quickly close with this link here and some technical information. And Emily, did we include the email in here somewhere?
I don't think we've got the email, but we could throw our email into the chat box here for everybody to follow up with us. Yeah,
we'll drop the email in the chat box, and it was also listed in the funding opportunity, in the formal funding opportunity, which is listed on the website, as well as on grants.gov. I think I did see one more question around match. Maybe if you can go through this list, or while I touch on this, that'd be helpful. There was a question on a couple thoughts on match where, I know academia often has a hard time matching with cash. We do welcome cash or in kind, as long as that match threshold is met 1-to-1. So again, for every federal dollar, one matching dollar is brought to the table by the applicants. Also, with respect to the match should support the work throughout the proposal, the proposed project period. So any work that has been done prior to submission of the application, whether it is anything from consultants and your own time preparing the proposal, that certainly is not eligible, or any labor or technology value that would be leveraged to execute the program, that also could not be matched. Reason being is we're looking for commitments that are going to match and support what we are committing to. So if we're putting $1 to support programming for year one, we want to see similar commitments from local entities, from your entity, that are going to support that effort as well. It ensures that there is mutual, quote, skin in the game, and I really hope creates the conditions for a sustainable, impactful 3-year project.
David, I just wanted to address your question about, you're right. There are many different ways that this could be formulated. We've kept it, broad. We didn't want to be prescriptive in what a solution could potentially look like. I just want to hit home. The letter of intent really serves that purpose. Use that as your opportunity to formulate a strategy and submit ideas to us. That's a way to formally present what your organization thinks is feasible, and that's also an opportunity for us to have dialogue and give constructive feedback to you on what might make for a solid full application submission before pouring a ton of time and resources into the application itself.
Last one for the day, folks. John, I'll take this one on private sector partners in a consortia. I think typically consortias tend to just be complex in nature, and if that's the route you want to go, please just give us a ring. I think actually email is best. Our email, we'll drop that in here right now for your reference. But if I think that's a great example of the type of scenario that we just like to discuss. So if you have some technical questions about your eligibility or eligibility of your match, perhaps, these are great things that we'd love to talk through. What we won't do, though, is coach you or push you in a particular direction. Reason being, Emily said it great. We want to see what some great ideas are. We want to see a range of ideas. So we're really relying on you all, industry experts. You're in the field, you're in the trenches doing this work. What do you think is a compelling idea? Of course, we do have some constraints. Those constraints are those that we just talked about, the eligibility, the match, and what have you. We're excited to get those. Again, January 8th is that LOI deadline. Don't dismiss that. It's just 3 pages, but please put some real thought, take it seriously. That is going to help us provide you the right type of feedback in this process. With that, looking forward to hearing any feedback or questions in our inbox there. This recording's going up hopefully by tomorrow. Thanks, everyone. Have a wonderful day.